What's up, y'all? It's 10-3 time in Tennessee. How are you? Hope you're doing well here on this Monday, January the 26th, 2026, the 26th day of the 26th year after 2000, that is. If we were in 26 AD, this would be technology that we would not possess yet. We would be wizards in that world, Tom.
Yeah, that would that probably would not end well for us in that era.
Probably not, no. You put them in a cage, burn them, burn them.
Yeah.
A lot of people would rather kind of be burned today than what they're dealing with. It is cold out there in the state of Tennessee and across the eastern portion of the United States. Now, we did not get, when I say we, I mean those of us living here in Knox County, specifically near downtown Knoxville, we did not necessarily get the snowmageddon that was potentially going to happen. Now, it's these things are always complicated, and you would rather hear this from our weather people than me. But as someone who's lived here for a while, whoa, we got some wind going out there in Knoxville today.
We're just looking over there at Fort Sanders area right there.
Ooh, boy.
Steam coming off that building there. It's people were a little scared there for a minute.
Yeah, they are. What's going on? What's going on in Gatlinburg?
Here, Gatlinburg. Oh, I actually would love to show you Gatlinburg here.
Hopefully
Gatlinburg?
How's Gatlinburg looking today?
Gatlinburg, I think it is.
I mean, if it's not, we'll go somewhere else.
Oh yes, beautiful,
beautiful up there.
That's what we were hoping we'd.
Looks like a little bit
here.
more coming down right now. Actually,
no, it's been kind of flurrying and light snowing all day out there. So you can see that the mountains now are a little snow capped.
Little snow capped, little snow.
Definitely more than here.
Yes.
Sure.
Now here in the valley, it's always interesting because I don't have like a percentage for this, but it just seems like Knoxville like is disproportionately high on like the fringes always. Like when the storms come in, it's like it's like we're always like there's like 3 colors or 4 colors on that map, and Knoxville's always like right on the border of what color is it going to be. At least when the storms come from west to east, it seems like that, as a lot of them do, obviously. Yeah. And as this one kind of came, it just turned into one of those, again, that looked like it kind of warmed up a little bit, wrong time. It hit the plateau and went up a little bit. So those above us got quite a bit of snow, and some have been buried in the stuff. But we got basically the coldest rain that rain can be and still be rain, I think.
I mean, it was actually freezing rain there for a little bit of the parts of later Saturday.
Yeah, and so
but that quickly turned back into rain.
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and I brought all the stuff to maybe stay here over the weekend, like some of our producers and people had to do. And then late kind of Saturday after that game that we're going to talk about here in a minute, it was like, well, I guess I can go home after all. So that's better than the alternative.
The roads, I think the brine did its job. Honestly, I think the brine held out and was the champion of the day.
They did. Thank you to all the people at TDOT and all the people in the area and the KUB people.
The city folks, everybody
city
who
folks,
worked together.
County folks, everybody.
Did a great job pre-treating because the roads, other than this morning, just a little bit slick because of the weird
we take care of our stuff around here, unlike there are other cities this size that don't really take care of their stuff as well as we do here, and I think we shouldn't take that for granted. They do a tremendous job, but there are obviously a lot of people in the state of Tennessee and other places who were not so fortunate. I know that a lot of people, including a lot of my family in the mid-state area, still does not have power. Some do, some don't. And I know it's a little bit treacherous
Nashville,
there. That ice storm was pretty nasty.
Real nasty.
Some trees down, lots of power. At one point, 300,000 or so people didn't have power, and I don't know what those updated numbers are, but it was a lot of people. And, I got family over there, and some of them got young kids, and some of them were a little older, and you want them to make sure they're nice and warm. And I'll give one more PSA before we move on and talk sports here. Said this twice last week. I'll say it again today, and I'll say it again this week as it gets colder and colder because it is a cause near and dear to the heart here. If there are elderly people around you, there are neighbors of yours.
Yes.
You know them, and you don't know exactly how much family they have or who, if anyone, is in contact with them. Do not assume that someone else is checking on them. Please go in there and check on them. Make sure they are okay. Make sure they have food. Make sure they have blankets if power is a situation, certainly. Try to bring them on over to your house if they don't have power at theirs. Societies are judged by how they take care of their most vulnerable, their youngest and their oldest. And we as Americans, no matter what you believe, ought to be able to take care of each other. So certainly don't assume that anyone else is going to do it. If it is to be, it starts with me. Check on the elderly people around you because when it's really hot or really cold, things can get tough for them. So please do that. We do have, however, a tremendous amount of sports to cover today, and it was, I got to be honest, a pretty good weekend for the Volunteers of Tennessee. We'll talk maybe a little bit in the portal. Hopefully, we'll get to some of that today. The portal. Tennessee's still adding people. 3 more additions over the weekend, up to 21. Now, one of those, Jadaeus Richard, the corner from Miami, that's a guy who used to start at Miami. That's a guy who's going to join that group and expect to play. He's someone who, again, I mean, I said yesterday that Heupel is basically it's like, and I say this now for the second time that I've been able to say this in my life. If you have a pregnant wife or pregnant partner, and sometimes she just says she's hungry, she yells it, she's hungry, she doesn't know what she wants, but she's hungry. And so you go either to the kitchen or to the store or to both, and you just come back with all of the food. You don't know what she wants, but you come back.
A full selection.
Here,
you know
I got pickles, I got ice cream, I got chips, I got a sandwich, I got some peanut butter, I got apples, I got watermelon. What is it that you want? You want me to, I'll go in there and make some vegetables. I can go grill something. What is it you want? I got everything that exists. So whatever it is, and it might be just one bite of everything. It might just be one of the things. But you were very angry and hungry, and I just came back with everything that I could carry. That's sort of what Tennessee has done in the transfer portal in the secondary. They've gone in there, Heupel, new defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, they're like, I'm hungry. What do you want? I don't know. Defensive backs. What kind? I don't know. Just go get them. And Tennessee has gone and gotten 8 defensive backs out of the portal already in this cycle, which is, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please, an entire 2 deep. That is an entire 2 deep. They have gone out 8 of the 21 portal additions have been in the secondary. So rest assured, if you watched that Tennessee secondary last season and you thought, that's not for me, I don't like this isn't good, you were not alone, all right? There were people in positions of power in that program, and they agreed with you. And they have gone out and kept a couple of the guys they wanted to keep, and everything else has been shuffled, and they're going to have a lot of competition there. That's 11, 12 guys, I count at least, who legitimately could be in the mix to be starters in that 5-man group. So we got a lot of months and weeks to talk about that. Certainly spring will be interesting now, because that's it's a lot of cocks in the hen house. That's a lot of that's a lot of steak for not a lot of dogs. Or the other way around, a lot of dogs, not a lot of steak. You know what I mean? You got a whole lot more dogs than you got kibble. But, hey, sometimes that can be a problem. Sometimes that can be the best thing that exists, right? So we'll see how that goes. There were also a couple of other depth additions they made over the weekend. Idaho State wide receiver Ian Duarte and UT Martin tight end Drake Martinez. Now, Martinez is a better blocker than a receiver. He didn't have a lot of receiving numbers at Martin, but he is they need bodies there. They got good tight ends. They need more depth. And so they brought in a couple guys who didn't put up huge numbers at where they were, but they can come in, they give you extra bodies, goal line stuff, short yardage, catch the odd pass here and there. And you know what? Miles Kitzelman wasn't known as much of a receiver until he got to Tennessee, and then he became a much better one. So maybe they'll be developed. Maybe things will change there. But Martinez and the young man from South Alabama, those are depth pieces, I think. And then there's kind of a tweener piece there. You're not sure what Ian Duarte is, because he's got some good film. And the past couple of years, he's got 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, about 90, 95 catches. But he's done that at Idaho State, which is an FCS program, not a huge program, obviously. And you don't know how that's going to translate exactly. So he's more of a slot guy. Braylon Staley, probably, if he's healthy, not going to come off the field a whole lot. SEC Freshman of the Year, as they progress into sophomores and juniors, aren't typically guys who spend a lot of time on the pine. They are usually out there on the field. And then, Joakim Dotson right there with him competing too. That's interesting, because we'll see how the offense develops next season. There's a lot of things in play there. But this is an interesting addition, because they didn't necessarily have to go get somebody there, but they liked this kid and went and got him. So he's also a return specialist, as is another one of the guys that they've brought in. The guy from Colorado is a dynamic potential return specialist. So guys can fill some voids there, and there's a lot of different places these guys can fit in. But some interesting additions from the portal this weekend. There was a lot going on. I think as of now, and again, you're counting on me for math here. So, and I will give a shout out. We gave George L., the offensive lineman from Catholic, a shout out last week. We owe another one now. Jacoby Cooper, wide receiver at Alcoa, has committed to Tennessee as a high school player, a late addition to that class. He'll sign, I believe, in about a week or so when that opens back up. So as things stand now, Tennessee, it lost 27 players in the portal, but brought back got 21 additions from the portal, combined with 29 now high school JUCO commits. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the math. That's 50 players. And I think of those 50 players, you're talking at least 47, 48 scholarships there. A couple of those guys could be ones like, Deshaun Bishop at first. They're in there on a kind of a, they're a walk-on, but they're not, because they're a walk-on, but they're priority walk-on, and NIL can help pay for that tuition and then some. So that's kind of a way that these things can be finagled. So I don't know exactly what they're doing there, and frankly, they don't have to release that information, but I know that the long snapper and linebacker coming in from EKU, I know he's a walk-on guy. A couple of these others maybe could be, I'm not sure. But regardless, that's 50 newcomers, and I think at least 47 or so scholarships, 48. And you got 85 to dole out to a team. So do the math there. That's more than half of Tennessee's scholarship players next year will be newcomers. Now, that used to be a terrifying number, Tom. That used to be a number that would just scare the daylight out of you, because that's – if they were transfers, they couldn't play for a year unless they were graduates.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a while, they had to sit out a year anyway. And so then they were either newcomers in the, JUCO / mostly high school ranks, or a couple guys who maybe couldn't play for a year. And so if that was more than half your team, you would – let's put it this way. I would not wear light-colored pants on the sidelines, because you're going to leave a mess. And so that's – you know what I mean? Like that's a tough situation. Nowadays, the portal, it's just different. Now, ideally, again, in an absolutely ideal scenario, I still don't think you would want to bring in this many newcomers. I don't think you'd want to do that. But there are reasons in some cases why you need to. Why, even if that's not usually the best thing. It might be in this situation. There were some positions where Tennessee just flat out needed to get more talented and needed more bodies. And if those are older guys who have played other places, hey, that helps. And specific to this situation, Tennessee brings in a defensive staff that has a defense that maybe takes a year or so to learn sometimes. They brought in a lot of guys who have played for this staff or in this defense before.
Okay.
And so they will know the defense better than some of the returning players will know this defense.
That's actually pretty interesting that you mentioned that.
And so that's why Heupel has been really reticent in the past to go out there and add huge portal classes. He's been more, I want to develop guys. We have a unique system offensively, and I like older guys on defense, so we'll kind of develop guys there. And, we want portal guys, but he wants kind of the backbone, sort of like Georgia does, where the backbone, the meat and potatoes, is your own guys that you've had for, not that the new guys are not your guys, but day oneers, right? And so that's what they would normally, I think, like to do, shade a little toward that. But when you're coming off a year where the guys you had could have played better in some cases, and there weren't enough of them in some cases, and some of them were hurt in some cases, and then you bring in a new staff defensively, it sort of makes sense to bring in a lot of new blood here. And it's not, make no mistake, this is still a big year for Heupel, and it's a year where things don't necessarily just have to go perfectly, but everyone on all sides would be more comfortable if things were pretty solid next year. Let's put it that way. A lot less even potential decisions to make. But I think in this situation, they needed to kind of go out and do some damage in the portal. I mean, you're seeing what, like Kiffin did at Ole Miss, building a team like that, what he's doing at LSU now, certainly with, gosh knows, paying $7-8 million for some of these guys. I mean, hey, do it. there's no rule against it right now. So if they're doing this and it's on the up and up,
that's the name of the game.
If that's the rule,
yep,
then that's the rule, right? And so it's a big spring. There's a lot of guys that are going to have to get in. They're going to have to get on the same page quickly. They're going to have to learn this new defensive system quickly. There's a lot going on here, but I don't think anyone minds in this case that it's a little more portal heavy than it has been. I don't think that's something that fans are upset with right now, if I had to put it that way.
And I think the players, they're anytime you get these big changes in coaches, there's a little bit of a culture shock that goes along with that. But as you mentioned, if they're bringing in, people who are well versed in that world, it's going to reduce that,
Well, and I look at it specifically in the secondary here before we go to break, and it's pretty clear that Josh Heupel looked at last season's film of the secondary, looked at the guys that were injured and not there, and guys who wouldn't come back, and looked at some of the guys who were out there, and he said, I have to fix this. And it looks like Jim Knowles has come in as a defensive coordinator, watched that same film and gone, yeah, buddy, we need to fix this. So they seem to be on the same page there. And the interesting thing in this case is they brought in a lot of guys who, make no mistake, will expect to play. And I don't know if Heupel's never been a guy who guarantees anything to anybody, really. He doesn't guarantee starting spots. He doesn't guarantee reps. In the past, he hasn't anyway. He has said, I have an open competition, and if you are the best, you will play. Whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, I'm in the business of winning games. I'm going to play who helps me do that. So if you're the best guy, you're going to play. But I can't sit here and promise you you're going to walk in here and start. Sam Levitt, maybe you could have said that at quarterback. But,
yeah.
So there's a lot more to discuss here. We're going to spend a lot more time on basketball the final two segments because that was a big, big, big win for Tennessee over the weekend, a big win they needed to get and they got, and overcame a little bit of adversity, a little bit of interesting circumstances there, as y'all know, but we'll still recap that anyway. And we'll do that.
We'll just keep going. I think we'll just keep rolling with here because we got a little issue here with our setup.
Let's keep rolling then.
Not letting me go to break here, so you're spared. You're spared the Cobb Gobbler ads.
Pardon our progress. We'll have those in just a minute. You know what I was going to do if we had that break today?
What's that?
I was going to clean my glasses a little bit because the light is hitting them and it is incredibly annoying to me.
Well,
and that's my fault. Hey Tom, that is not your fault. That is my fault. I thought these were cleaner than they were.
And
until you get the light right in your face, that's when you learn really quickly. Because I've always wondered when I came in here, there's a lot of things that I didn't necessarily know about this business, right? I mean, in terms of TV streaming, all this stuff full time. Obviously, in this era that we're in now, you do everything, right? I came from a place that had its own network. I was on there a lot, right? I've been in. Done a lot of stuff with Feinbaum and others, SEC Network. I've been in a lot. I've had these lights. I've worked for this station before part time back in the day at times. So as a media partner, so I've been in here a lot, and I knew a lot about this business
for sure.
But one of the little things I didn't know is they have a lot of glass cleaners all over the studio, like in terms of like lens cleaners and stuff.
Do you need some lens cleaner?
And I was thinking,
no,
no, I'm okay. But I was thinking oh, that's got to be a lot for the cameras, right? But then I was like, oh, no, it's also for people on the air who wear glasses because when the light hits you, it is supremely annoying. It is supremely annoying.
Yeah.
But we did get that sorted. We got the tech issue sorted.
I think so. We can try it.
We'll try it, and we're either going to take a quick break or we're going to keep talking, and we're going to figure that out here in just about a second. Be right back here on 10 at 3.
All right,
we got the secret time.
Do you want me to take? You want me to go grab some lens cleaner for you while we're doing this?
No, I can use.
It's literally just right down.
I'll do it the old-fashioned way. It's all right.
Okay.
It's all right here.
You just let me know.
If you're just trying to leave, you can leave.
I could. I could just hop out.
Dude, I'm just leaving. I'm done with this today. Where you're talking about weather, portal, when you should have talked about basketball first. I'm out of here. 10 at 3.
Come on, let's see. Well, I mean, talking about basketball, there's a lot of delays going on there.
10 at 3, not for me. But it's okay. I've almost got it now. There's one more thing here. Come on, get it. One little annoying.
All right.
I think this is actually, if I'm being honest with you, I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Gus hair. I think this is one of my dog's hairs that's on there, and I can't get it off.
Little insider.
I can't get it off. I can't get it off. I
told you I could have gone and gotten you a lens cleaner.
I'm gonna get it.
All right.
Come on. This is going to sound good on the microphone.
Actually, it doesn't sound that bad.
Okay, that's at
Can you
least
see now?
better. It's at least a little better.
The glare not too.
We can
bad?
deal. We can deal with this now. Yeah, that was. We do have a lot of basketball to
About a
talk
minute
when we
left,
come
by the way.
back because obviously there's some delays, some postponements.
Yeah, it's the run of both Lady Vols and Vols. They're having to wait until Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, it's looking like that's going to be the case. And so did they officially reschedule the women's game yet?
Oh, let me check here. I'm not
Because while we're here's where I was almost late today, and the reason why, if you can look in the pocket here, we did the the baby appointment again. So I got the old Jelly Belly ultrasound pictures right here in my pocket.
Nice.
Keeping it. I would say the cheesy thing to do would be I'm keeping it right next to my heart with my baby girl here. And that's partially true, but also this is just where the pocket is.
Yeah, they're saying in here that it was rescheduled for Wednesday at 7 p.m.
That's the men's game. Or is that the women's game too?
No, that's the women's game.
So they're both going to be around that time.
I guess so, yeah.
Because the men's game, that's a rough night.
All right, stand by.
Welcome back to 10 at 3. Wes Rucker coming to you here on a Monday, January 26, 2026, in here with Lord of the Streams, Tom Barclay. We got a lot to talk about today. We did that portal early. We got that. We cleared the deck with all of that info, some of the weather conversations. But before we talk just purely basketball, we do have some weather updates that are basketball related. Obviously, you've probably seen by now that the men's game was moved from at Georgia from Tuesday night to Wednesday night down there at Stegman Coliseum, what a lot of people lovingly refer to as Stegosaurus, a gym that a lot of people don't like. I kind of like it. I like gyms that are a little older and unique at times, and that one's got some neat quirks to it. So, I mean, a program like Georgia needs a better arena, but I kind of like some of the quirks of that old building. Just kind of like it's not as quirky as Memorial, I'll say that. Vandy's in its own kind of planet with the uniqueness of that gym, but there's that, and then the women's game also.
Oh wait, hold on, I did misspeak. It's been rescheduled for Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Okay,
for the Mississippi State game.
Well, yeah, that's in that. What about because they had the Ole Miss game, right? The game at Ole Miss was the one that was postponed. Yeah, that was the one. That was the one that was moved. It was moved.
I apologize. I misspoke there. Yeah, the Ole Miss game I don't see in the
because it moved from it was supposed to be Sunday, then moved to Monday. Then they were like, okay, no, we're just postponing it. I think it may have been scheduled to be played almost right around now, but did not happen. Here. So as I've seen, the most recent thing that I've seen is that there has been nothing new, and it won't be played before Mississippi State because they've said the focus now turns to the game against Mississippi State. So that will be Thursday. The men play Wednesday. They finish that little road trip there, and then they'll be back home Saturday night. Big one, Stephen Pearl and his Auburn Tigers coming to Food City Center, former Tennessee player, former Tennessee walk-on turned starter, Stephen Pearl, a guy who a lot of people thought maybe skipped a few places in the ladder to get that job at Auburn after his dad left. But you know what? He's there, and they had a big win at Florida over the weekend. I did not see that coming. So congratulations to Auburn. I did not think they would go down there to Florida and beat those guys, a team that I think is, when all things are right with that Florida team, I still think it might be the best team in the league. Now, there's an argument that the team Tennessee just played might turn into the best team in the league. And there's an argument that Tennessee could be up there too. So there's a lot going on. The SEC in basketball on the men's side is wild. No game that occurs midweek will have any relation to what happens on the weekend. And then that game over the weekend will oftentimes have zero relation, no connection whatsoever to what happens the following midweek, and so on and so on. Texas A&M is up there in front right now, but I don't think it's played the toughest schedule necessarily. Did go to Auburn and win. It's had some big wins, but came here to Knoxville and lost and could have won that game. So, yeah, that A&M team is exceeding a lot of expectations. Buckyball's doing really good. We'll see where it stands by the end of the year. I'll be a little surprised if they're kind of up there in the top 2 or 3 at the end of the year. Might be wrong. And I really like McMillan as a coach. I think Buckyball is really fun to watch, but we'll see with the losing a big man there that could hurt. I don't know. We'll see what's going on there. But what's going on is chaos. And Tennessee went down there. This was not a game that I loved Tennessee's chances going into it. And that was before Bama was able to play a professional in the game. And there's no way to not continue discussing this Charles Bediako thing, because you saw very quickly when he got on the floor, that's a man. That's a 23-year-old man who has been practicing with professionals and playing with professionals for the past 3 years. And I cracked up. And I got a lot of friends over at SEC Network. I got a lot of friends over at ESPN. I'm not knocking them whatsoever. But the guys on that game kept saying, wow, this is so much better than anyone could have expected from Bediako in his return. And I'm sitting there going, really? You didn't think a guy who's been playing as a professional the past 3 years would have gotten better at basketball? That's kind of what you should have expected. He's a 7-footer freak athlete who's been practicing as a pro for the past 3 years. And even to be in the G League, you got to be a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah.
Now, he's not the most skilled offensively, but at that size and athleticism, he ain't got to be. Now, he didn't get a ton of rebounds, but the way he was able to go in there in the post and push Tennessee around at times, need I remind you, Tennessee's got one of the biggest teams in college basketball. Tennessee started in that game across the front line, 6'10", 6'11", 6'11". 6'10", 6'11", 6'11". I don't know around the country if you're going to see 3 guys in a starting lineup who have a combined height higher than that. I just don't know if you're going to see that. Now, Gillespie's not a big point guard. Boswell's about an average size 2 guard, maybe a tiny bit undersized in terms of height, maybe a tiny bit. But those forwards are huge. And Ament at the 3 at 6'10", 6'11", whatever he is, you don't see a lot of that. In the NBA you do. You don't see a lot of it in college. And then coming off the bench, you're bringing off, Dwayne Brown II and Jalen Carey, who hurt his knee in that game. And I don't know if it's as serious as it looked. We'll see. They haven't given an official update, but he was running kind of in the tunnel late in that game in case they needed him to come back in. So I don't know that it's bad. It looked bad when it happened, but so did JP Estrella's, and they've said they think that one was a hyperextension, and that's all it was. And they think this one might be a hyperextension, and that's all it was. But my point is that Bediako was in that game. The crowd was fired up. He was in that game in Tuscaloosa, and they were making a lot of noise. And Tennessee was down 10 early, and it looked like what I thought might happen was going to happen, and they were going to get run out of that building. But they fought back. And Nate Ament was special. 29 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. I think he's the first freshman or the second freshman in the past 20 years to do that on the road against a ranked team, 29, 7, and 3. Chase Budinger was the last one to do that. And if you remember Chase Budinger, heck of a basketball player. So Ament's the second person in 20 years to do that. Go on the road, ranked team, 29, 7, and 3. And really had a couple lip out, or he could have had 30 plus. Fantastic. But in that game, there's one narrative out there that I don't like. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all, Tom. There's been a narrative out there that is it that big of a deal that Bediako came back? Whether you like it that he came back or not, it's not like he's Akeem Olajuwon, right? It's not like he's Shaquille O'Neal. You go watch some of those plays where he scored in that game, and physically what he did at times with some of those block shots, some of those dunks. You tell me that ain't a big deal. You can't tell me with a straight face that ain't a big deal. Now, what you can do is you can say, I support that ruling even though it's unprecedented, and I think this is what the future is, and I'm okay with this. That's fine. You can say, I don't like this. I don't like this ruling. I don't like the conflict of interest potential that the judge had. I don't like that the NCAA said he couldn't play, but then the judge said he could, and that judge and his wife had serious potential conflicts of interest. I don't want to question their ethics, but I'll question the appearance of it, and that's the problem. Just being able to question it it is a deal where perception becomes reality. Just the fact that it could be that, that's why legally judges usually step away from these things. So, again, I don't like that a state-level judge did this either. Like, this needs to be a federal court thing. It needs to, let's get it sorted. And in the meantime, if he's got to play because you worry about getting sued if originally, if he ends up getting to play and you didn't let him play first, so you don't want to get sued, okay, fair enough. I get that. But the ruling shouldn't have come from where it came from. Shouldn't have come from that judge. And in my opinion, he shouldn't have been playing. Now, again, that's an opinion. And I would have said the same thing if a Tennessee player were in that exact same situation. I've said that before. I'll say it again. I don't think that Diego Pavia and Miles Kitselman should have played last year. I don't think that Joey Aguilar should be able to play next year. And I like the kid. I like his family. Everybody does. But I think you've had your time. Now, again, if the NCAA or courts say otherwise, then that's the rule. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't think he should have been out there. But those are the two things it's okay to say. What's not, in my opinion, okay to say? It's nonsensical, in my opinion, to say, but it's not that big of a deal. It absolutely is. In the first 17 minutes of that game, Alabama scored more points in the paint in a half than Tennessee had allowed all season. And they had just gotten to the final media timeout of the first half, and they'd already done that. And taken and made fewer threes than they had in the game all season. You're telling me that's a coincidence? That's a heck of a coincidence. No, it's not. This is a significantly huge ruling. And here's what's scary for everybody else right now. Alabama played with Charles Bediako on Saturday. Alabama did not play with two starters. Aiden Holloway and Mari Allen, those are some dudes. They were injured, not able to play in this game. Those two come back. Bediako looks like this. Reitzel looks like this. That, in my opinion, could become the best team in the SEC. That team could be a national champion. Now, Bama's got to do some things better, and that we'll see. But to sit here, it's not wild to say that could be the final piece in getting Bama over the hump. And if that's the case, then an unprecedented player being thrust into that situation midseason and then doing that, that's a really bad scenario for college basketball. In my opinion, that just is not a great look. Now, do they care what I think? Probably not. Should they care? I don't know. Probably not. But it doesn't pass the smell test. And we'll see. There's a hearing scheduled, I believe, for Tuesday morning, and I don't think the weather down there is bad, so that should be okay to go off as scheduled. And there'll be a hearing, and then we'll see kind of a lot of options are on the table for that hearing. Because remember, this was just a temporary restraining order for 10 days. So that got them to the hearing. And again, I don't want to repeat everything I said last week. But I will say that I don't blame Charles Bediako for this. I don't even really blame Nate Oates for this. I don't blame him for trying, and I don't blame him for being a hypocrite because, like I said last week, the stakes of the game at this level are you can end the season with a big raise and a big extension, or you can possibly be in hot water or be fired. That's the situation that all these guys are facing, and we have all created that atmosphere where that's the situation these guys are in. We, the media, you, the fans, corporate sponsors, the governing bodies, the institutions, everybody with the money involved here, and that has gotten this to where it is with the coaches. And honestly, if you don't have a coach who would do just about anything to play just about anybody to get a win and win a championship, this could be an uncomfortable conversation. But would you want that person to be your coach if they wouldn't do that? Because it's easy to sit there and say, I love a coach who does everything exactly by the book, but if you're not pushing it a little bit, are you winning titles? History would suggest maybe not. And so again, there have been only 2 situations in the past decade in college basketball where I said, I cannot believe that guy's being allowed to play. And both times it's been a guy at Alabama. 1, for the legal situation. 2, the Brandon Miller situation. Say what you will. That whole thing was a sketchy, bad deal. Not passing judgment. It was a bad deal. I wasn't there that night. It was bad. None of that looked good. And now this situation. This one, though, Oates has gotten a lot of stick for this. And I understand after the Miller situation why people wouldn't be inclined to give Oates the benefit of the doubt. And that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is I don't blame the player for trying. I don't blame the coach for trying. I blame the judge ignoring a potential conflict of interest, a couple major ones, and making that ruling. That's what I don't like here. The job of these guys is to be maniacal and try to win games and try to win championships. That's the kind of personality that at the end of the day, a vast majority of these players and coaches have. They have to be reined in. They are hungry dogs. If you can't hold them by the leash, that's on you. If you aren't strong with the leash, you don't need to be in that job. Their job is to go be hungry dogs. Your job, hold them by the leash, build a fence, keep them in there, keep them in this space. And they're not doing a good job of that. No one is right now, as far as I can tell. The NCAA, which has been wrong so many times in the past several years, generations actually, I think was finally right about this. But then a court came in and said, well, no, I'm not so sure you're right. So it's a mess. And I think if that Alabama team becomes what I think it could be, then again, this whole thing is going to look a little bit, it's not going to be a great look. It's just not. But, I mean, we saw that with some of the Meyer national title teams at Florida and Ohio State and Tressel. And we've seen Miami in the past. You know, Tennessee certainly had some issues in the past. We've seen some of these things that don't look good, and these teams have won. So the situation last year with Florida and the coach, can't forget that. That was a bad look for many reasons, many different reasons. But still, if they're not winning, I don't know if he's still coaching there. But he won enough where they're like, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. So I get why Bama's getting the stick it is right now. And a lot of it's just fun because it's fun to poke at people. That's just the world. We live in a troll's world, right? But I think that frustration could be channeled elsewhere. I think most of us are on the same page that this ain't cool. But I don't know if we're putting the negative energy necessarily in the right direction there. I don't know if we're doing that. But again, that's just my opinion. But you know what? Tennessee didn't beat Alabama as fully assembled, but it did still beat a good version of Alabama on the road. And we're going to talk about a lot of those reasons why when we come back from break right here on 10-3.
Or will we?
Or
give it a second.
Will we?
It's doing it again. It's been a little finicky today.
Well, then we'll see if it comes back in a second.
It will when I reset.
And until then, I'll say I just want to make sure that we're putting the frustration in the right place. That's all I'm trying to say. And you think whatever you want, because at the end of the day, you and I, if you don't think that he should have been on the court, if you're one of those people, I agree with you. And it might be semantics, it might be a little pedantic to say, well, I think you should blame this person, or I think you should blame that person. We're all in agreement, or most of us are, that this probably shouldn't be happening. And that you could make an argument that the European players coming in when they do is the reason why that American players should have sort of a similar situation. I don't think those situations are identical, though. I just don't. And I wish you could go case by case on it, like a clearinghouse used to do. Look at a situation and say, yes, or no. This doesn't feel like it should happen. This feels like it should happen. This feels okay. This doesn't. But then again, that legally can get you in hot water because you don't have a firm set of rules. So I get why this is happening. I also think there's a chance that once the season starts, that's your roster. I think there's, you can maybe go, if someone's 17 and they enroll early and they come in midseason, that's fine. You're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I don't know if you should be coming in during the middle of the season either. And I get academic calendars are what they are, but I don't know. I don't know. This whole thing is a mess. And I hate that we're having to talk about it like this, but it's where we are. And that's kind of what this period's always going to be known for. This period of the games of college sports. Now, if you won the championship, right, your team's that's going to be your memory from all this. Hey, my team won a championship. My team won the conference. My team, won the title. Fair enough. I'm not going to yuck your yum there. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But writ large, everyone in the country looking globally from 20,000, 30,000 feet up looking down at this will be known as one of the most transitional sea change eras in the history of American sports, right? It's like when people started throwing a football instead of just running it. Like when color television came into play, right? Conference realignment, the NFL, AFL merging, right? All of these things, Jackie Robinson, playing baseball. This is for very different reasons in every case. There are just times where that's what an era is known for. And this era is going to be known for, it was kind of the Wild West. It was a lot of course corrections and overcorrections, and then overcorrections to the overcorrections, and then more overcorrections on the other way. And then eventually, hopefully, it gets back on a course here. But it's way to the left, it's way to the right, it's up, it's down. And sports are never a straight line, but societies are never a straight line, right? Look at history. It's not. Things go a certain way, then they go another way. It's what we do as humans. But this period will be known for this. And it will be worth it if they get it where it needs to be. And the quicker, the better. So they need to figure this stuff out. In the meantime, though, Tennessee went down there and it won that game. And that was impressive because, again, we talk about you have all these plans, right? And then a ball gets tossed in the air and it's chaos. And in the week leading up to that, Tennessee kind of thought Bediako might be able to play, but weren't sure, but thought he might be able to. But they also expected Holloway and Allen to play, and they didn't. And so twice during that week, they had the potential to significantly change the game plan. And credit Rick Barnes for this. He said, at the end of the day, we'll see who's out there, but I'm not changing the way we're preparing for this game because I know how Nate wants to play. He knows how I want to play. We'll do a few wrinkles, but we got our plan and we're going with it. And you saw a lot of things in that game. Number one thing you saw is mental toughness from Tennessee. That has not happened in a lot of other close games down the stretch. That crowd at Coleman was begging Bama to get back in that game. It was doing everything it could. It was being a tremendous home floor advantage. And that advantage could have tipped Tennessee over when it was down double digits. Didn't happen. When Bama fought back in, a lot of times could have retaken the lead, could have done some things. Didn't happen. Tennessee withstood all of those opportunities. Now, it wasn't perfect. Gillespie still had one turnover late in the game as he laughed about afterwards because someone asked him about playing better later in the game, and he said, well, I did still have one turnover, but we got the stop on the other end, so it could have been worse. But there were a couple of missed free throws in there too, but by and large, that was a huge step forward for Tennessee. Huge. And ladies and gentlemen, we have learned now, I hope that everyone has learned now why Rick Barnes has preached patience with Nate Ament. Rick Barnes is one of, and I mean this in this could sound like a bad thing. I don't mean it to sound that way. I really don't. I don't mean for this could sound a certain type of way, and that's not what I want. But Rick Barnes is one of the least patient people that I think I've ever met. And that's not a bad thing. As a coach, sometimes you have to be a bit of an irritant. You have to push things along, right? You're the captain of the ship. You gotta drive the thing. If you don't like something, you're gonna say it. Now, there are times where I think he could have stayed with a certain approach but didn't because he got a little impatient. But you can even tell just talking to him in the middle of sentences, he goes one way and then he's like, "No, I'm done with that. I'm gonna talk about something else now." And he'll just stop and completely the king of non sequiturs, just the king of it. He'll just in one sentence he'll go, "Well, no, this and this and this and then this is happening and all this, but really it's this," and that's just how his mind works. And he's never seems to be patient with just about anything. He has kept saying this season, Nate Amen's going to be special. He said it time and time again. He said, I know it's frustrating right now. I'm frustrated. I get it. But I know what this kid's about. I know the talent he has. I know how hard he works. And I know what kind of potential he has. This kid is special. And it's going to happen. Now, he's 18 years old, so will he be the best version of himself as a basketball player this season? No, because he's 18 years old. He's going to keep growing. But a couple of bad games did not move him really out of anyone's first round draft board. And you started to see, really in the past 2 weeks, you've kind of started to see, okay, that's what this kid's about. He's learned to play through contact. And, Barnes has said all year, I don't think this kid's gotten a fair whistle. That's entirely a matter of opinion. I mean, everyone by this point, if you know me, even at surface level, for the past 25 years, how I feel about college basketball officiating. You know how I feel about it. It is so bad. So bad. So inconsistent. So erratic. So unpredictable. You think even game to game, even within possessions in games, like sometimes you should be calling games tighter early, and then once you realize the guys aren't going to fight each other, then you open it up a little bit. But they're the opposite. They'll go in there and not call anything for the first few minutes by and large, and then go call everything in the second half. And it's like they've just spent an hour playing a certain way, and now you're saying you can't play. What are you doing? What are you doing? No one cares about you. They don't. They just want you to show up and do your job. It's not about you. But there are a lot of really good ones, but the ones who are bad, and we keep seeing them over and over and over again. So I don't think Tennessee got a wretched whistle in that game. I don't think it was bad. There were a couple of rough ones there. But, hey, on the road in this league, I've seen a heck of a lot worse. But Barnes' point was, I don't think Amen's gotten a great whistle this season or a good one. I think he's got some valid points there. But I'll tell you what, Nate Amen, you keep putting up 29, 7, and 3, you're going to start getting more calls. I'll tell you that right now. You're going to start getting a lot more calls if you establish yourself as this kind of a player. But the way that he can create his own shot, the way that he can pull up and shoot over you, the way that he can handle, the way that he can extend beyond the arc, the way that he can go in there and rebound, I don't know if there's a lot of people at this level one-on-one who can stop that kid. Now, if you're a really great defender and you can get physical with him and the ref will let you do it, you can contain just about anybody a little bit. But if Nate, he's got the potential to be one of these guys that if he plays like this, you can't stop him. What you're going to have to do is contain him. And to do that, you're going to have to make sacrifices that will give space to other players to hurt you. One of those gravity scorers, right? They create the kind of their own gravity. defenders have to go toward them, and that opens up more space for others. He's a high gravity guy. And the way that he can score at all three levels, including the mid-range stuff, Barnes loves a mid-range jumper. Barnes loves guys with mid-range jumpers. You got all these three, and I'm one of these guys. Honestly, I think the metrics kind of say if you do most of your shooting either beyond the three-point line or right at the rim or at the free throw line, those tend to be the teams that score the most points and have the most efficient offenses. Now, that's just numbers, and maybe sometimes that leads to teams not practicing against that, so they're not as used to it anymore. And if guys can take that shot, even though it's percentage-wise, so many metrics say for most guys you should not be taking that shot. The longer a two-pointer is, the less efficient it is. Be at the rim or beyond. Be the closest you can be to the rim for two, or the closest you can be to the line for three. Or be at the free throw line where you got a free throw and no one's guarding you. That should be, I think, where most of your shots are. I'm one of those guys. I'm not dogmatic about it, but Rick Barnes loves him some mid-range jumpers. He's always got some guys, and Ament's one of these guys too. And, hey, you keep making them like this, that's fine. That's fine. If you're going to hit them, that's good. But that's why I've said, and this game did not change everything for Tennessee. In fact, I still think if Alabama plays its best with all of its players available, Tennessee plays its best with all of its players available, I think Alabama might be a little better. I just do. Doesn't matter, but that's what I think. Because it just matters who plays the best in March. But I've said all along, I think there's a top 10 team in there. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen when it goes down to Georgia. Georgia had a tough loss over the weekend. Those guys are probably going to be upset. Hey, I don't know. I've seen Tennessee play really bad in Stegman Coliseum for a lot of years. So I'm not promising anything there. Because in this league, game to game, it's wild. But when Tennessee plays the way it can play, Ament and Gillespie are special offensive basketball players. And you're also seeing, we didn't have time to talk about him a lot today. We'll try to correct that tomorrow. There's lots to talk about with JP Estrella too. You're seeing one X factor in Ament start to show what he can do, and just scratching the surface. And I still don't think Estrella's even come close to scratching the surface of what he could do offensively and what he could do in the paint. But he gave some big minutes against a big old guy on Saturday. And if he can start to get a little meaner, a little tougher, feel better with his health, and the legs, and the knees, the ankles, get more comfortable, more confident, I think there's a big-time player in there. I do. I think there's a big-time college basketball player in there. And you hope Jalen Carey's all right. Hopefully we'll have an update on that tomorrow by the time we go on air. But I don't know if there's anything serious there. Boswell obviously finished the game. By the way, kudos to Rick Barnes for he obviously wasn't listening to me, Tom, but, Rick likes to put guys on the bench when they get 2 fouls in the first half and not bring them back to the second half. And he was doing that with Boswell. Things were going badly. And I was like, Rick, I think you got to change. I even put it on social media. I said, Rick, you've got to get – it's like, I know you're not reading this, but you need to get Boswell back in the floor. I don't care. He's a stabilizer, and you need him back on the floor. And I know that Rick didn't know what I said, but – by gosh, right about then, he was like, oh, I got to get Boswell back in this game. And he did.
The universe was speaking to him.
And then it got better. And magically, I was like, oh, my gosh, it is so much better. It's so much more fun to be right than wrong. But Tennessee did a lot of really good things in that game. And I only mentioned about 3 of the 7 or 8 things I really wanted to discuss from that game because we just did not have the time today because of the portal, because of the weather, everything else. But we're just getting started this week. We got 4 more to go. We'll be back tomorrow with a lot more to discuss, talk about Georgia, talk about Tennessee. We'll see what else is going on with football. We'll see if we got some Lady Vols stuff. I've even got some baseball stuff in the can to play at some point. I got all of it. And we're going to have at least 4 more hours this week to talk about all of it with you, starting about 23 hours from now. So we will see you all in about 23 hours.